to this fourth class on writing successful proposals to obtain development funding. My name is Reva Ogo, your facilitator for this course, and it's been wonderful having you in class with us. You know, when we started, we've gone through quite a number of requirements for writing successful proposals. However, most potential funders or funding agencies for that matter would ordinarily expect that you include your business plan. Your business plan basically would be your plan for the period, essentially for a year, which would more or less be a precise view of what your organization is involved in carrying out in your desired population for that period of time. And usually, your business plan should clearly enumerate the following. 1, your mission. 2, your vision. 3, your goals. 4, your objectives. 5, your strategies and activities. 6, your monitoring and evaluation procedures. And 7, your budget. Very, very important. I'd like to repeat them again. Number 1, your mission. Number 2, your vision. Number 3, your goals. Number 4, your objectives. Number 5, your strategies and activities. Number 6, your monitoring and evaluation processes. And number 7, your budget. Okay, so let's look very quickly at what your vision will be like. Ordinarily, your vision will be a short general statement on what you want your program to become. Your vision actually describes how the program will look like in the future. Your vision will ordinarily not be specific about how your program will achieve results. For example, to make home ownership for every Nigerian. That is a clear vision statement. To make home ownership, for every Nigerian. Now, your vision will not specify the means because it's a brief and very up to the point statement, and you need to be aware that you might need collaboration to attain your vision. That is at the back end. As an organization, you need to understand that yes, in spite of the fact that your organization has its stated vision, remember that you will always at a point need collaboration to attain that vision. And now, the next you will need to state in your plan will essentially be your mission statement. And your mission statement actually identifies the niche of the vision. It identifies the niche of the vision. And it explains the direction and purpose of the organization. Actually, your mission statement gives direction. The mission gives direction. And for example, let's look at the mission statement, for example. It says to facilitate the provision of potable water for Dawn Village through the sinking of boreholes. Note that your proposal is to achieve your mission and vision. The whole idea behind your proposal is to attain your vision and your mission, or better still, your mission and your vision. Okay? Now, your goals are more specific. These, of course, are a derivative of your vision and then your mission. Your goals come just immediately beneath your mission, or your mission statement, as the case may be. Now, goals are more specific and they have more direction. They describe future expected outcomes. They provide direction for your program. And goals are focused on the end and not the means. And you actually obtain your goals through the objectives and the strategies of your program. So, in doing that, we have to understand that the goals are more specific than the missions themselves. The goals come out of the mission, and through the goals, you are able to more or less have a wider understanding of where your program is going in specific terms. Whilst your vision and your mission will not be necessarily in specific terms, your goal begins to run out in specific terms. And now, what gives rise to your goals are your objectives. And what are your objectives? Your objectives actually explain your goals in measurable details. Your objectives explain your goals in measurable details. Now, goals without objective will not attain or accomplish your plans. The objectives are the specifics that put your goals in a clear picture or in a clear perspective. With your goals essentially dovetail into your objectives, which are a breakdown of your goals. Okay? So a goal cannot stand alone, and goals can be attained through a series of objectives and strategies. And remember that when we talk about your objectives in this case, your objectives must be SMART, which essentially are that your objectives must be specific, that is what you like to achieve. They must be measurable, that is talking about in terms of figures and numbers. Your objectives also have to be achievable. Can it be done? Is it possible? And your objectives must be realistic. That means, can the objectives be attained with the organization's resources? And furthermore, your objectives must be time-bound or specific, or better still, specific. So your SMART objective, for example, will be to increase the number of water boreholes at Dawn Village by at least 20% before December 15th. So what do we find here? Number one, it's specific. It's specific in the sense that it is clear what we want to achieve. What we want to achieve is the increase of water boreholes at Dawn Village. Very, very specific. Okay? By at least 20% before December 15th. Is this objective measurable? Yes, it is measurable because we have stated in figures and numbers exactly what we want to put in place. And what are the figures there? We are saying by at least 20% means a 20% increase. So that is addressing the stats directly, that we want to do a 20% increase. Can it be done? Is it achievable? Certainly it is achievable. 20% looks within the range. It looks within the range. And is it realistic? Can the objectives be obtained with the organization's resources? Could also be realistic when we're looking at a 20% increase. A 20% increase is not over ambitious for any growing organization. All right? And do we say it's time bound? Is it specific? Yes, it is time bound because we've stated clearly that we intend to achieve it before the 15th of December. So take this into consideration in putting together your vision, your mission, your goals, and your objectives. These are very, very crucial in dictating or setting the pace and direction for your program whenever you want to put things in place. Actually, it is at the level of your objectives that it becomes explicit. It becomes very clear. It becomes just like the acronym SMART. You know exactly, what it's all about in clear, definitive terms. Okay, so the other aspect which is required will be your strategies and your activities. And what this means is that essentially you need to describe the means by which you will achieve your outcome. So goals are directly tied to the mission purpose of the organization, and goals should work to accomplish the mission. Your activity statement, for example, to provide community education sessions that emphasizes the importance of men using reproductive health services. Now, your activities must be clear on point. They must be clear on point. That is to say, you want to provide community education sessions that emphasize the importance of men using reproductive health services. That is one such activity statement. This is a statement. It is after the statement that you do a breakdown of the activities. Now, when the statement is clearly enumerated in this manner, you can then do what you call a breakdown. A breakdown will then come to specifics such as the scheduling, how you schedule the activities, how you go about carrying out this particular function. And at this time, you're looking at, maybe scheduling through the week or specific days of the week at various times, and the tools you will need or use to get at performing this very important function. But again, it's important to understand that your goals are directly tied to the mission purpose of the organization. They are directly tied. So, and the goals should work to accomplish the mission. So when you look at it in that manner, you can see how it tapers down from the top, and at the same time, from the bottom up, you can see a gradual, more or less like a gradual progression to the apex of it, which is your vision, to be able to use what you will call maybe a bird eye view to understand what the organization is all about, as it were looking at it like from the top of a pyramid. Okay, so the other aspect which will be required for your project plan is your budget. And some of the things to think about, you don't guess at figures. That is, get estimates, look at what you spent last year, look at other organizations' accounts, check pay scales, whatever seems appropriate, but be as precise as possible. That is to say that when you're putting together your budget for your project plan, endeavor not to guess. Because when you guess, you will throw all the indices out of gear. And then it becomes difficult for your potential funder to understand the drift of your financial projections. So your financial projections should not be based on guesswork, as it were, but on clear, probable estimates, as we call it. And your budget should also be agreed to by your management committee or board, and you need to also keep notes on how you arrived at the cost. So looking at your budget, you have to make a clear decision about what rate of inflation you are working with or working to, particularly on a multi-year budget, and say what it is. It has to be very clear, explicit, as we'll say, and you have to think carefully about how much detail you need to give and how much you can group individual terms of expenditure together. Talking about the information and details you need to give, you need to think carefully about it. Okay? And don't forget about hidden costs like insurance, maintenance, general overheads, and don't forget about recruitment costs if the budget involves workers. Many a time, the non-profit organizations seem to overlook a lot of hidden costs, like insurance, maintenance, and general overhead. I'm trying to actually place emphasis or put a focus on areas which non-profits, do not consider important or do not consider necessary, as the case may be. So don't forget about the hidden costs like your insurance, your maintenance, and your general overheads. Don't forget your recruitment costs also. One thing again you must not forget is don't forget the cost of evaluating the work, even if you have to do it yourself. Now, like we said, a very important aspect of your project plan is also your monitoring and evaluation processes. And in doing your monitoring and evaluation processes, you have to understand that there is a related cost in evaluation. And as important as evaluation, as monitoring and evaluation is, you need to also include the costs in your budgeting. Even if you have to do it yourself, do kindly include it, and don't underestimate or cut costs just to look good, lean, and efficient. Very, 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 very important. We make that mistake all the time in the non-profits. In order to look good to our potential funders, in order to look efficient, we cut almost everything to baseline levels, which is not the best, because what you're doing essentially is that you're not giving a true picture of what it will cost, of what the financial involvements will be like whilst running your program or running your project. So don't underestimate or cut costs just to look good, lean, and efficient. In short, the fact of the matter is that most funders see through it and they're able to state categorically that this cannot be true. So don't also overestimate or pad out figures just to get money into your organization. And if there's going to be a contribution towards core costs, don't try to hide it. The non-profit community might be smaller than you ever assume. So if you are going to get contributions from other organizations for that same purpose, you are better off declaring it, because when you declare it, you increase your own credibility profile to the extent that your potential funder now knows that some other organization is interested in funding you to a certain degree, and if that is the case, then they will also feel obliged to also sponsor you to a certain level. So please do not hide any contributions towards the core costs that you might have. Now, if you are sending a business plan as well, check that the figures are the same in all places. Check that your figures are the same in all places. Check and double check that it all adds up. Now, looking at the full costs recovery, the examples which will most probably be in your project costs, they should include direct costs attributable to the project, direct support costs of the project, portion of premises and office costs, portion of operation costs, portion of the communication and marketing costs, portion of director services, portion of governance and strategic costs, and the portion, very, very important, of general fundraising costs. Your fundraising will definitely come at a cost. So you need to do well to include that. We are actually mentioning, putting an emphasis on particular areas that non-profits tend to overlook or more or less not consider important, but we need to put all that within our cost projections. So let's look very closely at this point, having taken a good overview of what your project plan will look like. Let us look at your methods of preparing proposals. The first is that do not send huge amounts of materials. Do not send the same proposals to all donors. Very, very common fault and a common attribute of non-profits who tend to more or less duplicate their proposals and applications for funds to various grant organizations, without customizing appropriately or diversifying the approach. That you need to be very wary of. Do not send the same proposals to all donors, and do not change your area to suit every donor. Be true to your goal. It's important to understand that you have a particular vision, a particular mission, and particular goals. So do not begin to change your area just to suit every donor. Be true to your goal and do not inflate the budget under those circumstances, and do not make it cheap at the same time. Making a budget cheap or making your proposal cheap will not help your cause, because what that means essentially is that you're not going to be able to deliver on your mandate or on your goals, on your mission and your vision. You'll not be able to deliver because you've made it deliberately cheap. And essentially keep your proposal short and present your non-governmental organization well. I mean, in a very credible sense. Also ensure that in your proposals there are no spelling mistakes. Ensure to keep it simple, and whenever you use acronyms, please explain what those acronyms mean. Always tell a passionate and emotive story to bring it home to the donors. It's very important that we do this. You remember when we're talking about the pillars on which effective persuasion rests. One of those pillars is being able to tell an emotive story, which will bring it home to the donors. And your fundraising headlines should not aim to amuse or entertain. Your headlines should, essentially tell the full story, do the ask, and at the same time motivate your potential funder to give you the required help and assistance. And your fundraising headlines should also not contain clever wordplay, because that will be deliberately trying to confuse your audience. And your fundraising headlines should not use puns or innuendos. Your fundraising headlines should not seek to be novel or oblique. They should be clear, precise, and very easy to understand. Okay, so in preparing your proposals, you noticed we have mentioned before that one of the most powerful words of persuasion is the word you. So whenever possible, start with you. For example, you have helped these children once, now they need your help again. You have helped these children once, now they need your help again. So that is more or less recognizing the power of persuasion, persuasive words rather. And what has been discovered is that the most powerful word is the word you. Now, make your correspondence personal. When was the last time, for example, it should be, when was the last time you were dying of thirst? Stop for a minute to think. What if one day you suddenly forgot your name and couldn't recognize the people you love? So what have you done essentially by this? You have made your correspondence to be personal. Every time you make a proposal, always write to the first person. When you write in very clear personal terms what you are trying to put across. You see, so again, let's look at it. You can say, for example, when was the last time you were dying of thirst? Stop for a moment to think. What if one day you suddenly forgot your name and couldn't recognize the people you love? So that is how to make it personal. Then sometimes you can lead with the ask and say, Help continue to save lives with a gift this Red Cross Appeal Week, 4th to 10th of May. Help continue to save lives with a gift this Red Cross Appeal Week, 4 to 10 May. Another will say, even on Christmas Day, our crews are ready to save lives. Could you spare $20 to help? So you can see the emphasis on the word you there. You are directly appealing to the emotions of your potential donor, whether they are individual donors, corporate donors, or foundations. You will be doing that very clearly. Then you could also do your proposals or do your ask by a command which says, for example, please open this if you think a baby with a learning disability has a right to life. Join our salute to the fallen. That is another one. So you can see there is a command there. A command says open. Another command says join. So these are various ways in which we can play with words of connection, words of persuasion to convince an intending or potential donor. Now, you could also ask a question and say, why are so many children dreading Christmas? All right? That immediately fixates the heart or the mind of your potential donor to actual situations where children dread Christmas, probably because they're not going to get gifts, probably because they're not with family and the rest of it. Then state the problem, for example. In stating the problem, you can say the devastating typhoon and earthquakes that hit Southeast Asia over a 4-day period have left 4 million people in need of help. Please give $15 or whatever you can afford today. So you see, you have stated the problem and done the ask at the same time. If your problem is clearly stated, then your ask is immediate. Or you could use a quotation that says, the day children no longer need us is the day I won't need to ask for help. That immediately puts the children in the central focus of the needs or the requirements you're trying to meet. Another says, my reality feels more like a nightmare, one from which I'm never going to wake. Okay? You could also use human interest angles. Those are very interesting stories. You can say, at the age of 32, I finally did something I could be proud of. That is when telling a story. Okay, now, in methods of preparing proposals, you should use internal representations and scenarios like, are you alone? Draw the curtains, sit in a cold room, speak to no one. That's what Christmas for 1 million older people in the UK is. So that basically puts the mind of your potential funder in the position of the elderly, for the 1 million older people in the UK that spend Christmas in a very, very uncomfortable state, so to say. Another is, last month in the unforgiving heat of the Indian sun, an 8-year-old donkey called Freddy sat down and died. These are all internal representation, depicting the scenarios very clearly. For example, another is no trees, no lights, no family. That also, tells you very clearly what it is like for some people. Another says, no child should have to call the streets home. Your gifts will provide an inspiration that will last a lifetime. Okay? All right. I'm going to help to make it bigger than ever. Another says, I have less than a minute to convince you to support water aid. You see, in that time, dirty water will kill a child like me $2 a month can give them clean water and could save their life. So have I convinced you? All these essentially are used to depict or drive internal representation to make your potential funder to feel. So it's also important to use fixing points and understand how they work. Apply the reader-centric concept. Focus on their wants, not your needs. We've said that over and over again, that it's not about your wants as a non-profit, but it's about the needs of your target population or your target group. And emotional drivers are effective. Emotional drivers are effective to drive your potential funder to share your vision, share your mission, and to identify with your goals and your objectives. All right. So conversational copy works better than presentational copy. We're going to talk about further down the lectures. We're going to talk about conversational copies, how they work better than presentational copies. That is to say that our conversational words are better in our presentation, especially in our written presentations, than our presentational words. Now, captions are important. We've talked about that before. So when you want to do in putting together your proposal, you need to have these at the back of your mind, so to say. But in other words, all we need to do is to understand, how to make proper proposals using these points that we have raised today. I hope you've had a great time with me in class today. I am Reva Ogo. I will be with you in the next session where we'll take off on understanding how to make or plan our appeal copy. Thank you.